Cool. Well, it looks like we're mostly here. If it'd be cool to see everybody if you could if you can, just so everybody can see who you are. And what we'll do for this meeting is do an introductory table and tell people who you are and what you're working on and how it connects with hydroponics. And then we have a presentation today by Max Lyons about all the cool stuff they're doing down in Kodiak and what Collie's working on and what they've been doing in the last couple months. So I'm really excited about our group getting off the ground. This is our second meeting for the hydroponics working group, and our last meeting, Nikira, you can see her on the screen, gave a presentation about just a general what hydroponics is all about. We had a lot of good discussion at our last meeting, but our plan is to moving forward, having everybody who's here at some point just give a little presentation about what you're working on or something you're interested in revolving around hydroponics in Alaska. And if anybody has any questions about that, let us know. So Sarah, just because we have a lot of new faces from the last time, Sarah Bernard Woods and I are the AFPC group chairs for this, and so we are both on the Food Policy Council and are kind of managing it until, at least I am until I'm off the board, but then Sarah will take over fully. No worries, Shelley, that's fine. And then hopefully we're working on getting some information pages connected with the Food Policy Council webpage where we can put up resources for folks to be able to access from all around the state. And then we're also going to have anybody who is a part of our group will have access to a YouTube channel it's going to be a private one. It won't be available to the public, but anybody who's on the group will be able to have access to the YouTube channel. Max is working on that as we speak with some of the folks at Food Policy Council, so that if you miss a meeting, you can go back and watch the meeting, or you can watch the presentation as it has been given so that you can catch up on things. But we wanted to make that as a perk of being on this working group, that you can have access to that. But we also want to make sure that as Food Policy Council, we provide some good information on our webpage for folks who are seeking how to increase their food security through hydroponics projects. So if you have things that you know are going to be really valuable to anybody working, that stuff we can put up there. We'll have our communications director kind of go through it, make sure that it's all good for putting up there. But I think that's going to be our plan with this group. I hope that works for everybody. So again, I'm glad you're all here, and we'll start with the roundtable introductions, and hopefully we will spend no more than 25 minutes on that, which I know it can take a little time, but and then we'll make sure Max has a full half hour. Is that good enough for you, Max? And for a presentation and a little bit of questions for him.
Sounds great.
Okay, cool. So since I've been talking, I'll just give a teeny bit of introduction, and then I'll just popcorn around on my screen and call on folks if you're okay with that. So my name is Mel Sykes, and I work at the Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District. And at our office, we've been working on hydroponics projects, both with schools in our community since 2017 or so. I happen to be the agriculture in the classroom coordinator for the state. So I'm connected to National Ag in the Classroom, and we got into trying to work with teachers on doing year-round gardening because they all wanted to do gardening projects, but where we are located, summer gardens just aren't really practical. They just kind of fell apart. And so a lot of the teachers wanted to give the kids experiences with working on growing plants and doing it in their classroom. So over the years, we've developed a number of fun ways of doing hydroponics really simply. And we developed a whole curriculum for teachers that's got standards and in a format that teachers can use straight off the bat. And all of that is free on our website for Fairbanks Soil and Water, or you can go to agclassroom.org/indoor gardening, and or agclassroom.org/AK will also get you there. And you can see all of the lessons that we've been putting together. But one of the really cool, exciting things that we've been doing is a community food project grant with USDA on hydroponics and encouraging folks to grow more food year round. And one of the products out of that is we're working on developing a microbe-based fertilizer that doesn't use any commercial fertilizer for it. So you can create a fertilizer out of microbes that you dig up out of the ground, kind of like sourdough. And we have put up that information up on our webpage. If you go to fairbankssoilandwater.org, we have, hold on, make sure I got that one right. I want to say the right thing. I was talking really fast. Yeah, fairbankssoilwater.org. It's got 2 S's. And you pop down on the resources menu, there's a hydroponics section, and in there is our basic stuff about putting together the microbe-based fertilizer, how to do it and what you need to know. So that's me. I'm gonna hand it off to Nels, because you're next on my screen.
Hello, everybody. My name's Nels, and I live in Fairbanks, and I'm largely based out of here. I do some outdoor regenerative ag permaculture-based farming in Nenana in the summer during the growing season. And then my buddy and I, we have a hydro farm just outside of Fairbanks on Goldstream, about 10 minutes or so from where I live. And we mostly focus on leafy greens there. Our company is called Alaska Native Greens. And part of what the name means to us is that we're working towards cultivating naturally harvested seeds around Alaska. So we're doing some trials with cloudberries right now. And yeah, so that's kind of what we're focused on now. And then we'll be doing some hybrid indoor-outdoor hydro projects this summer to kind of maximize on how much sunlight we get, and also because our controlled indoor environment gets really hot in the summer because we don't have an AC set up in there. So those are some of the projects that we're working on right now. We've got a couple varieties of tomatoes, and some of my personal interests, I'm really into seed saving. So I would love to be able to create a hydro system where we can be collecting seeds and kind of have these species that are used to outdoor environments in Alaska be adapted for hydroponic systems so that we can proliferate them throughout the state. And this is my first meeting with the group. Glad to see you, and I look.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Okay, let's move on to Robbie.
Well, hi, I think everybody here knows me. Robbie Townsend Vendel, Executive Director of the Kodiak Archipelago Leadership Institute. Say that fast 3 times, and I'll give you a donut. Anyway, I think a lot of you're all aware of the work Holly's doing, working together with 6 Alaska Native communities. Max will be presenting more on that in just a little bit. Off of the hydroponics subject and kind of bouncing off of Nell's seed saving, we're embarking on a new project to establish seed saving plots, grow out plots for native plants at the farms, for things that medicinal gardens and reclamation projects. That's kind of exciting, but it'd be really interesting to see if we can actually do some native plants hydroponically, such as indigiponics presented on at the conference. But I think I'll leave it at that. And then Mel, do you want me to pick the next, or do you want to pick the next?
No, go ahead. That'd be fine.
Okay, I'm gonna pick on eeny, meeny, miny, mo. How about Alex? Good to see you here, Alex.
Hi. So I don't really have much to offer. I'm new to this whole thing. I just figured I'd listen and see if I could pick anything up. I recently took a job with Old Harbor Native Corporation, and I'll be spending my summer in Old Harbor and working on our farm out there. So I'm just here to listen and learn.
You want to pick somebody to go next?
Sure. How about Sarah?
Hi, thank you, Alexandra. My name is Sarah. Mel kind of introduced me a little bit. I am officially, as of one day, the program manager for Alaska Seeds of Change. And I brought my team with me, some of my team members with me. If you haven't heard about us, we are a hydroponic greenhouse, but we do more than just hydroponics. We have a vocational program that uses the hydroponic system to teach vocational skills to our youth, in addition to having opportunities to learn general life skills and how to adapt into adulthood. So that's a little bit about me, and that's a little bit about our program, but I'm going to pass it on to my coworker here.
Hello, I'm Brett. I'm just a shift lead here at Alaska Seeds Change. Kind of been here a couple of years, and
You're more than just a shift lead, Brett.
He's a hydroponics guru.
And is doing some awesome hydroponic experiments.
Yes.
Our jalapeno pepper.
I'm Meg. I'm one of the program supervisors here, and I'm also kind of coordinate production wise of like sales and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I'm Arlo. I'm another shift lead that's been here a couple months.
But you were also with us previously as.
Yes, it was.
That's our team, just a piece of it. Thank you. And I'm going to. Oh, did I see a hand or something? No, I didn't. How about Brian?
It looks like she was clapping for you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian Hillenblum, resident of Kodiak, and I just decided to see what's going on in hydroponics. I don't have any projects, and I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Now you have to pick somebody else, Brian. Who's next?
Dorinda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dorinda Kuhn. I'm with the Kodiak Archipelago Leadership Institute. I don't work directly in farming, but my role as project director supports that. And I won't say more because I'll be repeating what Robbie said and what Max is going to say. But my first time here, I missed last time, and I'm excited to listen.
Okay, I'm gonna pick.
I didn't
the
pick
next
someone.
person. Yeah, you can do that.
I'll pick Shelley Martin from Uzinki.
I knew you would.
Yeah.
I'm Shelley Martin. I am not into the hydroponics, but I'm learning. Duke manages our hydroponics farm, and I manage the soil and greenhouse farm. So I'm just here to learn. This is my first time here, and I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
You are most welcome.
And let's go ahead. You can pick somebody.
Oh, well, let's just go with Jen. I think
Okay.
she's great.
Hi, my name is Jen Jarvis. I'm actually from a new company called Sure Food Solutions. My experience actually growing hydroponically. I don't have a great experience, a lot of experience dealing with that. Really the food security and moving things forward in that area. I'm just very passionate. And I'm in the middle of supporting a feasibility study, evaluating a large scale farm in Juneau with the Gold Belt arena in the Gold Belt with Gold Belt And just at the very beginning stages, they've made no decisions, but definitely looking at that. And committed to not only having large farms in Alaska, but making sure we're focusing and continuing to push out to rural Alaska. And when I hear things like, this person's a hydroponic guru, just continuing to strengthen the community with that, looking at it as, I think that really this new company has really adopted that this is getting an and food community. So it's for profit and for purpose, and communities, municipalities, and tribal, and soil, and hydroponics. So the more we can work at, and the cottage industry, the more we can keep adding ands and not discussing or saying which is better or worse, then the better we'll all benefit from it. So thank you. And I'm not sure who's left.
I think we're down to Max. Oh no, no, Nakira. Sorry, almost forgive me.
No worries. I'll
Let's
go.
go with Nakira. Then Max, you'll be last.
Yeah. Yeah. So my name's Nakira Lane. I work for Alaska Village Initiatives. Here is kind of like one of our agriculture specialists. So Alaska Village Initiatives, if you aren't aware, we serve the tribes in Alaska and do economic development in rural Alaska, essentially is kind of our big picture thing. And then within that, I work on the agriculture side of things. So yeah, we do all sorts of projects, but like Mel said, I gave a presentation last week on hydroponics. It's something I've done for a while now in several capacities. But yeah, we like to help wherever we can, any sort of economic development for an agriculture project. So I love soils and also hydroponics and kind of just all the plant things. So.
Okay, Max, you're on.
Jump in and then I'll just share my screen and get into it. But I work with Robbie, Dorinda, Alex, Shelly, Brian's on and off in some of our workshops and whatnot. Nels too a little bit, but working as a sustainable food systems coordinator for Cali. So getting to help out the rural communities around Kodiak to expand hydroponic production in a variety of different ways, and also some soil farming and kelp and mariculture too. Hopefully in the coming years, expanding that. So I'll just jump into it and share my screen to show you guys what we've been doing around Kodiak. And everyone in Kodiak was new to hydroponics a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, before we started our A&A grant. So still beginning and trying things out, but having fun with it and getting a lot of successes. So quick background about Cali. We're a community-based nonprofit whose mission is to support the long-term sustainability of our region's communities of Alutiiq heritage. The Kodiak Archipelago Rural Regional Leadership Forum started back in about 2005, meeting 3 times a year, bringing in community leaders from around the island in each community. Since COVID, we're down to 2 times a year. And about 8 to 9 years ago, an interest in food security and increasing the community's, access to local fresh foods and local production was a hot topic. So that's where Cali went out and got a grant to get some soil farms started, and then interested in expanding into year-round production, explored hydroponics as a viable source, and then recently started to dip our toes into mariculture, and then at the root advocacy. So that's kind of the forum is the heart of Cali. I mean, out of that, Alutiiq Grown has been born. And Robbie, if you have any, or Dorinda, you'd like anything to add, please feel free to jump in. This is a little overview of the Cali team. We got Robbie Townsend as our executive director, Dorinda Kuhn's a project manager, Danielle Christensen is our Kiktuk Food Hub coordinator, which has also been born out of Alutiiq Grown, and Lexa Mai is our mariculture liaison. Just to show you some of our hydroponic growers around the island. You guys met Shelly. She's working in Uzinki at the soil farm, primarily. Duke's the hydroponic specialist there. Sam Knoyer's over in Larson Bay. Kaylee Shugak is working with Alex in Old Harbor. Becky Gomez here in Kodiak. Joe Kewen over in Port Lyons. with Dorinda. And then Dan McCoy is out in Alutiiq. So this is just a little visual of the Kodiak Archipelago region and where the Alutiiq grown farms are. So currently there's 6 tribal and community owned farms spread out around the region. And they're all off the road system. So Kodiak has some roads on it. You got to fly to Kodiak or take the ferry over. But once you want to get to any of the surrounding communities, you have to access it by air or ocean. So in terms of transporting food and getting fresh food to Kodiak and then out to the communities by the time it gets there, especially your leafy greens and vine crops, the quality is pretty poor. So it's a big incentive to explore hydroponics. So as I previously mentioned, we got year-round production is definitely one benefit. And I don't think something that's really been popular, in the history of the archipelago and Alaska being able to grow in the middle of winter. It's pretty incredible to have access to fresh greens and fresh leafy greens and herbs. It also saves a lot of land, wherever you have a little corner, a place in a heated building, essentially, or a controlled environment, you could grow hydroponically. I even have some just going in my living room, and it's constant in here, the temperature, so it provides a nice controlled environment to grow some crops. Increase your produce quality. As I mentioned, getting produce up to Kodiak and then out to the communities. Really poor quality. You're lucky if half of your head of lettuce is still alive and consumable. And then the time savings and predictable harvest schedule. I always joke, hydroponics and spreadsheets go a little too well together. Eventually you can get a very predictable harvest, quantity and quality and, timing, but it does take time to get there and definitely takes planning. It's not as simple as just throwing in seeds every once in a while, but done correctly, you can get a pretty predictable harvest time and schedule. And this is Moloch Farms here in Kodiak, containerized unit, just for reference. This is a VHH cabinet that was put in a administration building here, just in their hallway where they had space, moved a couple chairs and put this here. It was a great addition to the space. This is a little overview of the different Alutiiq grown farms and the different systems they are using. All the farms have at least 1 to 2 of the VHH vertical hydroponics harvest cabinets with about 115 head capacity, plant capacity. And then a couple of the farms, Old Harbor is doing outdoor hydroponics NFT style in their hoop houses. So instead of building soil beds, they just did a large NFT hydroponic system, which is seasonal, but in the summertime, they're producing a large amount. And then both Port Lines and Moloch Farms have a containerized growing system, which is the containerized system with NFT channels inside. It's about 1,800 capacity per month. A couple farms have explored bubble buckets, which are great to get in and do just a couple plants or experiment with vining crops. Dutch buckets seem to be a little bit more efficient and convenient if you want to expand your vine crop production. So we were able to get each community 2 4-Beto bucket systems from Crop King with a light rack, which makes it nice to just have a small contained unit that you can put anywhere that the space allows. And this is an estimate of the current household customer base that each farm is serving in their communities. And that's where the KickTech Food Hub is an online, marketplace, farmers market, where the farms are all able to sell their produce on one marketplace and access all of these customers and exchange goods depending on availability. So I'll give you a little overview of the different farms. We'll do a little virtual tour. Marlene's Garden in Larson Bay. This is a up close view of those NFT cabinets with about 115 plant capacity. You can see it's, I think, about a 30-gallon nutrient tank that just pumps up and then flows through each channel. So you can grow, a head of lettuce or so in about a month, 6 weeks from seed, and then replant and go again. So can alternate between cabinets, interplant with herbs. There's various ways to plan your planting. I'm a fan of basil and lettuce, or Basil, you do have to start a little bit sooner since it takes a little longer to grow. And then this is also a view in the bottom center of the Moloch Farms inside the CGS unit. And port lines will soon be online in the coming months, but it's essentially the cabinets just on a much larger scale. So more channels, more lights, larger nutrient tank, and some quality controls too, you know, automated nutrient doser and some fans hooked up. So a little more self-sufficient. You can definitely add some things to these cabinets to make them a little more self-sufficient, including a doser. We recently got some Blue Lab monitors, so you don't have to, it just gives you an instant reading of the EC and pH 24/7. It's always good to check, but it's one less thing to have to do is to scoop out some water and check every day that you can just go check your numbers or have anybody in the office just make sure the numbers are within range. This is a view of Cyclitic Sunrise Farm in Old Harbor, and that outdoor NFT system that you guys can see is really able to crank out a lot of veg in the summer. But the one downside is it is seasonal, not super efficient to heat a high tunnel. Maybe if you had a deep winter greenhouse or some way to have an insulated unit with a clear ceiling, you could get by with growing in the winter. One note on the containerized units, we do turn our lights on at nighttime just to help provide some heating and lower that fuel cost. And then on the opposite end, you can have smaller system. You know, these are some cheap little PVC systems off Amazon, and you can still do batches of herbs and leafy greens and whatnot. I have one of these in my living room, so I just grow herbs and lettuce for myself and a couple bubble buckets. I got some cucumbers going and tomatoes and peppers. So if I could at least produce that in my living room, it'd be a good addition. These are some of the views of the bubble buckets that I mentioned. You can see down in the lower left, Joe Keane, we call him the Watermelon King of Kodiak. He loves to do little sugar babies. I believe he's experimenting with cantaloupes as well, doing the bubble buckets. And it's nice because you can just do a couple buckets and position them under a light or move them if you need. Sam has also done, if you can see in the upper left, peppers, jalapenos, and I'm really a fan of peppers because you can get a nice 1 or 2 pepper trees in a bucket and they'll produce, you know, for, I don't know, 6 to 12 months or so, depending on how kind you are to the pepper, but they can produce for a while. You can see up here in the upper right, a lower shot of the jalapeno tree that Duke had going in Uzinki. And then he was experimenting with some different crops, some cauliflower, tomatoes, and whatnot. The one downside of these is you do have to replace the nutrient solution, you know, so lift up the bucket, put a new one in. Sam in Larson Bay, we got him a water transfer pump. So he just has a hole in his bucket and he puts a little hose in here, sucks out the old nutrient solution, pours in the new one. So that's definitely something to think about, is how you're going to efficiently change your nutrient solution periodically if you're doing a bubble bucket, because that is the reservoir. And you can get away with doing a crack key method where you don't have any air, it's just half water, half air. I'm a fan of having aeration in the water. I don't really like still water. I think it can just breed some nasty things, but it can be done. I have not experimented with that personally. Moving over to Dutch buckets, this was kind of the upgrade when people were getting more into vine crops and hydroponics. We got these small systems that are recirculating. So you have that nutrient tank here in the middle that you can easily access. And then it's not on this picture, but you can see it on this last picture. There's a light rack. So this light can actually be hung on a rack, and you can use the rack too to trellis your vine crops. Because that's definitely something to consider, is once your vine crop's growing, how are you going to support it? And what are you going to wrap it around? And you can keep them somewhat contained, but they do need some height and room to grow. So you can see Duke was experimenting with some bell peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and then in the far right, yeah, these are cucumbers over in the high tunnels in Old Harbor. So they have NFT system in one of their high tunnels, and then another one is all beto buckets, so they can do various vining crops in there, and then just growing up some fish netting. just to review some of the successes we've had, location selection, as I mentioned, the growing methods, you can do it on all sorts of scales, from small living room to high tunnels or beyond. The increased produce consistency, knowing that you will have a consistent supply of lettuce and leafy greens and herbs, and it's dependable, it's nutritious, great quality is very important. You don't have to worry if the plane is flying or if the barge made it to the island. And then, tying into that improved produce quality, expanding consumption. And for some people, it has been an uphill battle or change of habit because they aren't used to a lot of fresh leafy greens that have good quality. They're used to iceberg, which is stores more like a cabbage, so you can get away with sending it and keeping good quality. But just teaching people new recipes for salads or salad dressings or Caesar salmon salad bowls or whatnot to expand people's ideas and creativity about how to utilize the readily available produce. Some of the challenges is technical training. One of the reasons we started this working group is to increase the just experience and ideas and support that we all have as we expand hydroponics around Alaska. Nutrient sourcing, as Mel mentioned, how do you break away from the fertilizer salts while making sure you're still producing, a healthy, nutritious product and not introducing any other health hazards or obstacles that weren't previously around. And there might be some that arise with getting away from fertilizer salts that can be overcome, but just something to keep in mind. Electricity usage. How do you couple renewable energy systems or utilizing waste to energy systems to provide electricity for grow lights specifically? That's the hardest, one of the most energy intensive parts of fully indoor controlled hydroponic systems, or having a hybrid system where you do have some outdoor and some supplemental lighting. I will mention that one benefit of the nutrient sourcing is that we can ship out a bulk order of nutrients and it does stay shelf stable. I joke sometimes that a lot of the produce in the grocery store is grown with the same fertilizer salts, but instead of growing it elsewhere and then just having the product slowly die along the way, we're just shipping the fertilizer directly to the source, controlling how we grow it, and then providing the nutritious product. So just improving that system in a way, because hydroponics isn't perfect. So this spring in February, we were actually fortunate to go down to Biosphere 2. This is transitioning a little bit, and we did we attended a vine crop intensive. But before that, we were able to go tour Biosphere 2, which is in a way hydroponics and just controlled environment agriculture on an extremely large system. For those of you that don't know about Biosphere 2, it's currently owned and operated by the University of Arizona, where they're conducting various research on climate change and pushing, they can change and adapt the environment to see how crops will survive in certain humidity temperature ranges. We actually got to go with Linda Lay, who did live inside of Biosphere 2, a group of biospherians that had to provide their own energy, their own food in a completely enclosed system. Definitely worth looking more into if you guys are interested in it. But overall, it was just very inspiring to see, the different scales, coming back to the scales that you can do controlled environment agriculture. I love that Duke from Uzinki was starting to think about how could he maybe create a small biosphere with shipping containers, 4 shipping containers with maybe a greenhouse in the middle, or different ways to just create some controlled environments that you could have, year-round fruit production and vegetables and whatnot. We also got to see SAM, which is they're working, it's a space analog, forgetting what the M stands for, but how to grow food on Mars. So the University of Arizona is doing a lot of work with NASA. So we got to see a preview of some of the work they're doing, and hydroponics plays a big part into how you grow food in other environments, and how do you source those nutrients, and how do you get plants to uptake water if there's, different gravity environments. So that was really interesting, I think mind-opening for a lot of the participants. And these were just some of the reviews on what people shared in their responses. So, deepening our understanding of ecological systems, how systems all work together and really the possibilities you have to grow and create in controlled environments. This is pretty cool. This is us walking down into the lungs in the lower left picture. And if I go back one, this is the lungs. So they had two of these huge concrete domes, and during the day, the lungs would expand as the air got hotter, and then in the night it would cool. So these are all the different factors that they had to think of when you're creating a completely controlled environment. And still things to consider, you know, if you are throwing a hydroponic system somewhere, what is the environment in that place, or how much humidity it might put off, and is it going to ruin the space, or will the space ruin the system or the plants, etc. Moving on, we got to the main focus of the workshop was the 3-day hydroponic vine crop intensive. And Nell's actually got to join us down there. So it was great to see him and learn with him. And it was a jam-packed agenda. Great walkthrough of the life cycle of a tomato, you know, or vine crops, but really focusing on tomato production. Tristan Hooks led that, and we've actually had him come up to the farm, to the farms around Kodiak, and provide some technical assistance. So it was great for the farmers to get to go down and see his larger scale system in his teaching greenhouse. And we reviewed, you know, tomato pollination, fruit development, integrated pest management, controlled environment ag, vine crop and plant steering, plant response to light, hydroponic nutrients. And you can see in this picture here with Tristan, they get down to, they mix their own nutrients. So they're not buying a pre-blended part A and part B. They get down to every nutrient in the mix and what are the dosages you want. And then how do you change that and scale that as the plant grows throughout its life cycle. So pretty scientific, but he was just showing that you can get down to that level. And it is, you know, if you're doing organic, you will probably want to understand what are all the different nutrients in your solution. How do you create that consistent solution? So it does apply to still, depending what level you're doing, just being aware of that. Some of the reviews from the participants, and you can see here, people are releasing ladybugs in the upper left-hand corner as a great IPM strategy for aphids or other pests. But just seeing what it looks like to do vine crop production on a larger scale is pretty impactful, especially with these crops, you know, that are going for 10 to 12 months and that are growing a foot a week. So how you're moving them a foot a week, you're harvesting a cluster of tomatoes a week. It doesn't matter if they're all red or not. You're just keeping in sync and you get this rhythm down. And that is the beauty of controlled environment ag. When everything comes together, it is beautiful and it is synchronized and you can have a good rhythm. But on the flip side, things can get bad pretty quick. And when you do have a pest problem, since it is that perfect control environment, it can expand overnight. So you do have to keep your eye on scouting what's going on in your greenhouse, your growing space. But yeah, these are just some of the reviews. Really focused on tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers. Those seem to be the main 3 hydroponic vine crops. They also have a small greenhouse or a greenhouse design course, 3-day course that might be worth taking if any of you guys are interested in expanding or building a greenhouse or just on controlled environment systems. And yeah, just overall that CEA does have its space and, you know, expanding, increasing food security and food sovereignty around rural Alaska. And this just really opened the minds to different ways you can do it and techniques to ensure its success. I think that's all I had. There's a lot we covered there. So I don't know if Robbie or Dorinda, if anyone from the Alutiiq Grown team has anything to add that I missed, please chime in. Otherwise, I can open it up for questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to put the link to the U of A Controlled Environment Center into the chat. So if you guys want to follow up on that, see what other workshops that they're doing. And we're hoping the same thing will happen this year. U of A actually gave us a pretty good discount for anybody from Alaska who was going down to take it. And hopefully we can twist Tristan's arm to get that for us again next year. And I just want to say that I think we're just getting started with this idea of hydroponics in rural Alaska. And I'm just really, I'm grateful to the Alaska Food Policy Council because the trip down was funded through their new business center grant. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. And I'll keep trying to get that link into the chat. Or maybe Brian's already done it for me because he's really good at that.
If you have anything to add, Nels, too, you're there, so. Questions?
So that was a fantastic presentation. I wish I could have gone. It looked amazing. And I would love to see it next time for sure. And it looks like Robbie got that link up there. Yay. Are they using other things besides ladybugs for their IPM in there? Just out of curiosity, have they tried like nematodes or even praying mantises? And what have they been working on? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, he's tried all sorts of things, even certain funguses that will eat. I'll have to try to find it, or I'm sure if you Googled, IPM pest chart, there's some good charts out there that show you all the different predators and what they'll eat. And like a praying mantis, it'll eat everything. So it'll even eat some of your beneficial insects. But this was just a fun one that he had a bunch of ladybugs and we all got to put them on our arms and let them go. But I know Duke and Uzinki has had success with ladybugs and aphids. But yeah, he's tried different ones, but for the workshop, we did just do ladybugs. And sticky, the yellow sticky traps or cards, that's really the best recommendation for have those around your greenhouse and check those every day or every week. And then you'll see it's kind of a sample sometimes of what's going on in your greenhouse. That you can address that accordingly.
Yeah. Well, and I'd like to add in that we have people working on some of this controlled agriculture work for NASA here in Alaska. The gentleman who we were working on our biologic fertilizer, he is doing some stuff with folks down in Texas who are working on the NASA-based indoor controlled growing project. So if you wanted me to connect you with Will, let me know. But he's been kind of guiding what we've been working on with the microbe-based fertilizers up here, which is a lot of it's been based on the work he's doing with NASA. So it's all connected and it's really kind of cool seeing where this is going. Robbie, is that a hand up? Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to add that, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Tristan actually put together an IPM guide for us that we may have on our Alutiiq grown site. And if it is, maybe we can get it up into this group's resource library.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hey, Sarah, and you guys over there at Seeds, I know you've been doing some work with your large scale farm on IPM stuff too. Do you think that you want to share any of some of the things that you guys have tried? And maybe add to what we put out there?
Do you want to take this one? Okay. So we have also played around with beneficial insects, ladybugs. They kind of came to be our mascot. They're painted on the building because we would regularly we had ladybugs in the greenhouse all the time. We also work with rove beetles to help us kind of with our fungus gnats. They're great because they last for months and they're better at surviving than our ladybugs. Ladybugs tend to drown themselves, squish themselves, get into all kinds of trouble. We've tried lacewings before. The larvae are cannibals, so they're kind of hard to get that started. I've only seen, after buying some, I've only seen like 1 or 2 of them around the greenhouse. Maybe if I had spent more time trying to work with them, that would have been successful, but a lot of what we do just comes down to we remove a lot of crop that have issues. We have struggled in the past with aphids. Right now, we're kind of dealing with a thrip issue. And we've got sticky traps. We've got these little mites. I forgot what the mites were called. So long.
Spider mites. Or...
Not spider mites, but we get our beneficial insects from Evergreen Grower Supply. So they've got some mites that help with thrips. And they come in like the easiest way for us is they come in these little packages that have like a time release, a slow release. And what they'll do is they'll target the larvae of the thrips, the young, and hopefully, I mean, we've kind of seen a little bit of an impact that they've had. We do occasionally use minor pesticides. We have used, what did we use this week? Oh, Meg's gone. Meg, what did we just recently use for our pesticide? What was the last thing we sprayed? Azagard. Okay. These are the packs that the little mites come in. And then what did we spray before that we saw? Was it Pyganic? Mycotrol.
We saw a pretty good, sort of.
Results?
That was, results. That was helpful. I think the microtrol was better than the Azagard. So.
Yeah, so we try not to go too extreme, and we, for the most part, never actually want to spray for a couple of reasons. But sometimes it gets really bad. And, our system is about 6 years old. So we have over the years seen many stages of pest issues where we've even had to remove everything from the greenhouse and start all the way over again. Right now, it's a lot of monitoring for us and doing what we can to remove and prevent it from getting worse. That feel like it covers everything.
That reminds me too. The two things Tristan mentioned spraying are neem oil and insecticide. So we're two good things. He said what? Yeah, neem oil once a week for thrips and other pests, insecticidal soap for aphids.
Yeah.
Sticky traps, sterilizers, tools.
Our local greenhouse has an insecticidal soap with a really fun name. It's called Nukem. It works really well. I've had very good success with it.
The interesting thing, oh, sorry, Mel.
No, go ahead.
What we had most success with our aphids was that we'd mixed neem oil with some like baby soap, and it worked so good, way better than anything else that you can get in a bottle that's pre-mixed. And it made we used it on our lemon tree, and it made the lemon tree's leaves really shiny.
Cool. Well, any other questions or thoughts about Max? I just love the whole idea of them like taking the biosphere and doing all those projects on there. It's really cool. I'm glad you got to see that. I hope I get to go.
Great experience. Should think if there's the other thing is just system cleaning. Can't emphasize that enough. Don't slack on system cleaning, because I think you pay for it later when certain pests and stuff come up. And we've seen that with some of our growers, those that keep their systems clean and between crops and whatnot have a lot less pest issues than those that don't do it, or maybe when they should have pulled the whole system and just done a deep clean, they didn't. So they're just kind of trying to keep their pests down later. So that's definitely a good point, Sarah, that sometimes you just pull the crop. Depending on what the crop is or how late in growth, it's just not worth it. Or you might just be fighting the battle for a long period of time. So.
And sometimes we've had that issue with our little tiny 3-bucket system here, and I just give up and start again. And that's something. Somebody brings flowers in that comes from Fred's, and they've got aphids on them. Yay! That's where it comes from. So
Watch out for strawberries. I got aphids quick after that. Yeah, I know they love those.
Yeah. And that's the hard part. And one of the things we found with the biologic based fertilizer is the plants tend to have a little less problem with that because it's more mimicking like the way plants grow outside. So sometimes it's the fertilizer that like leaves them a little bit more susceptible to stuff like that. We're still working on it and still doing some stuff, some testing, and we've had kids doing some different projects at some of our schools on that, thinking about that and trying to determine, that kind of information, maybe to help encourage more use of that. But interesting stuff, because sometimes when you're dealing with a very controlled environment that involves the commercial fertilizer, there's a little bit more susceptibility to having things brought in rather than having the plants be very strong using more nature-based fertilizer. That was the concept of it, and it's been interesting for kids getting involved in this whole idea. And what we've been doing some projects. Kids had a couple of science projects that came out of that for our science fairs. Well, cool. Any other questions or thoughts?
Well, I would just like to add that Max didn't include the fact that some of our communities are moving hydroponics into the schools, particularly the rural schools. Port Lions is moving one of their, are they doing their Dutch buckets? Or are they doing one of their beta bucket systems? I think they're doing Dutch buckets in Port Lions. Some of them are moving one of their VHH cabinets into the schools, but it's the whole idea that the farm in school, so that the goal is to try to have at least one fresh salad a week in these rural communities in their schools. And this small scale stuff makes that possible.
It's true. And so one of the things that we've been trying to do, we went up to Alutiiq a couple times in the last few months. We went once in December, and we went just last month, the beginning of the month, and we've been asked to go to a couple of school systems out there, but they want something simple. They want something that's less involved. They want something that the kids can produce a lot of food in that isn't scary, I think is the best way to put it. So the other thing we've been working on, and if you don't mind, some of you haven't seen this, but I'll share my screen here for a second, and I'll show you something we've been, make that a little bigger. So we've been working on this system, which is it's a little bit different than the NFT system. This is a deep water culture system on one of those metal shelves using sleds. And none of this is proprietary components. There's nothing that you can't buy off of Amazon. And we're trying to put a bunch of these in the Fairbanks schools. We got some money from Lisa Murkowski's special appropriation funds, and we'll be putting a bunch of these systems in local schools here. And this might be a little bit less daunting for some of the schools you might be working with. Just an idea. We're still putting together the construction plans, but just again, that's what this is all about, sharing ideas. So here, I'll stop sharing my screen. Where did we go here? There we go. Stop share. But I'm if you guys are okay, I would be more than happy to do a presentation next month on the biologic fertilizer, how we do it, and talk about some of the real simple systems that we've been putting together here at Soil and Water. And then if anybody in here wants to give a presentation the next time, give me a text or text Sarah or me, and we'll get you on